So hi everybody, welcome to today's episode. So happy to join us. Hi Tom,
Hello, Lori.
how you doing?
Who's the stranger in the room?
This is Charles, a well-known psychic medium here in the Denver area who is an amazing medium. I've had several readings. So he's joining us today for a conversation.
Well, I can speak
Hi,
from experience. This will be very entertaining. Welcome, Charles.
thank you for having me.
Charles, I'm going to start out with a question.
Sure.
And this is just for me, okay? Um, Lori is often really mean to me, and she says the most horrible things, and it hurts my feelings and it hurts my self-esteem. And I don't know how to take care of my own feelings when that's going on. Do you know anything about that?
About Lori being mean or how to
Well,
handle
about what I should do.
that?
Good answer.
All right. Well, yeah, what should I do when that happens, Charles? How do I take care of myself in these kinds of situations?
I am Conan the Grammarian, just so we're clear. So if you leave hanging sentences, I just don't know where to go with that. I'll be scoring your text when we're finished here today.
Oh, good, good.
You know, this is what you're describing, not Lori being mean, but this whole idea of these feelings and stuff. This is symptomatic of so many people that are in our community. They are empathic, which is great, right? The whole basis of empathy is we're able to connect with other people and understand their experiences. But I don't use the word empathy. I use the word empathic because it has a whole different connotation. Most of the empathic people around us are wide open. They are so tuned into the people around them that all Lori has to do is give you side eye, and then you're wondering what you did, right? You're wondering, maybe it's something karmic. I mean, this is where all of our crazy minds go, right? Might be something you said, might be something you did last week. This might be a karmic contract that you signed a millennia ago before you came into this life, where she's just going to give you side eye, right? And you're going to be hurt about it. And so getting, I think getting the empathetic stuff, the empathic stuff under control is crucial to doing any kind of energy work or psychic work, because I have to have some grounding in myself about who I am and what's going on. Otherwise, I'll give you an example. So if I'm wide open and Lori comes in and sits down, I might be trying to read her and try to give her the answers she wants. This happens in relationships all the time.
Mhm.
My mom used to say, "Go tell your dad dinner is ready." Now, what that meant was, go tell your dad the dinner's ready and I work a freaking full-time job as well, right? Because she worked a full-time job and kept house. Dad just came home for dinner. All right. So, but it's not my job to read that. And so if it, as somebody who's empathic, we're picking up stuff all the time from other people. We walk around with it. And so this is not an easy task, and I certainly don't want to make it sound trite, but working on bringing your energy back into your body so you're not connected with people is really important. I'll tell you where I learned these lessons. When I started teaching, a number of people from our community and outside of our community are coming into my classes. And I know this now, I didn't know this at the time. There are a lot of people that don't have good people skills. So somebody would say something to me that was pokey, and it was pokey. And after a while, because pokey continued, because there are people who don't have good people skills. After a while, I kind of put a filter in place, right? Are they coming at me? Right? I mean, are they coming at me? Is this intentional? Or do they just not have good people skills? And a third option, I think I'm a funny guy, and probably 80% of myself hits, but just 20% that there's a thud, right? And I'm thinking the third option is, are they just trying to be funny and it just wasn't that funny? Once I kind of put that filter in place, that really helped me. The truth is probably less than 10% of the pokey comments were really poking at me.
Mm.
Some other percentage is the mix of the other two. They don't have good people skills, or they're trying to be funny. It just wasn't funny, which is a subhead of not having good people skills, by the way. If you can bring something like that online into your own life, then things feel less personal, particularly because this is the empath stuff. Someone at King Supers, some lady checking me out says something that feels pokey. She doesn't even know me. This can't be personal. This has to be me tied into something with her. She sounds like my mom, or looks like someone I dated at one point. I mean, because we got all this stuff online all the time. Having an awareness of that kind of thing, where I walk out of King Supers and I'm like, you know what? I just don't think she's got good people skills. Perhaps she shouldn't be a cashier. But she's union, so she's in, whatever. It is what it is. The empath is out of control. Everybody's after them. Everything that's said, even without any awareness, right? I'm just trying to be funny, it didn't work out. It becomes personal. They take it personally. It becomes rooted in them. Charles, that Dick said that thing. I'm like, dude, you can't know how many, because I think I'm funny, but there are just some things that come out of my mouth that I'm like, even when I say them, like I probably shouldn't have said that.
I
can't.
can relate to that
It's my own version of
100%.
Tourette's. I know it's my own version of Tourette's, right? I'm not screaming out cuss words. I just saying stuff that I think's funny and insightful, and it might be a little pokey.
Well, your points are well taken, and I want to throw out that it's very amplified right now with the world and the state of the world. And we're not going to talk about politics. Personally, I voted for Pat Paulson, but hope my age didn't show just then with the Pat Paulson joke. But
How old are you?
very, very old. Not as old as Pat Paulson. I don't think he's with us anymore.
Or
But
Lori?
but this has really gotten us divided, and now you can't walk down the street without wondering who is on the opposite side of you and what their agenda is. So that is really, your points are well made, because it's not just one-on-one, it's everywhere out right now. It's in society.
Right. So the defense to the empathic mind is to polarize things. So I can only see you as this or that. You are either expressing male or expressing female. You are either a Democrat or a Republican. You are a friend or a foe. And when we get down to the friend or foe stuff, then it really starts hitting us on a psychological level, back to a couple hundred years ago, when I really did have to be much more concerned about friend or foe. I feel personally threatened. That guy who's next to you that has an opposing political agenda, or whatever, he only has one vote too. So it's not like he's carrying around his 100 votes and you're worried about that. And he's looking at you the same way. I'm like, dude, I only get one vote. Unless we lived in Illinois, then you get multiple votes, but that's a whole other discussion for another day.
That's a yellow card right there, Charles.
I'm telling you. So I think an awareness, the first place to start with this is that you have this awareness. And anytime that I use the word awareness, to me, it's kind of like it's almost like a witness. The Zen Buddhists use the word witness, right? Having a second person outside of me, so that when I feel my porcupine thing is going up, there's a part of me that's like, dude, right? She's a bitch. That's all it is, right? She's not going to hurt you. She's just getting pokey with you, right? And then I can feel my back unarch, and I can feel my little porcupine pines, needles pulling back in. But that's an awareness thing. If the empathic mind out of control is always in reaction. So when you are really out of control, then not only am I in reaction all the time, but I'm looking for stuff.
That's true.
I'm looking for stuff.
And you become the victim who is always being victimized by everything around you.
Yep.
Yeah.
I had a class earlier this year where person that has just recently made the transition from being a male to a female was in the circle, and the whole room focused on what a trial it had been for her and how brave she is and all this. And frankly, I think she said like 10 words when she was in the room. And it was interesting to me because it was all about projection, right? They're thinking from their own perspective how hard this would be to make this kind of decision and how tough the world must. I don't know that to be true. I don't know that she wasn't fully supported by her family and friends, and that she had the money to do this and did it, and everything's great and she's happier the way she is. It it was interesting just to watch the energy in the room, how people tied into some outside stimulus about something in the room. And I'm like, you people aren't, nobody's picking up on her at all. They were all just doing their own thing. And in our community, again, you have to have some awareness. I have to be aware of what's going on. Like I said, if Lori comes into my room and I'm really empathic, I might lean toward trying to tell her what she wants to hear. In that case, I'm not a psychic reader. In that case, I'm your best friend. We should be having margaritas at Bennigan's, right? And you're like, I hate that man. I'm like, I hate that man too. Not because I hate him, but because I'm your friend and I'm just supporting you. But in a reading, right, when I'm tied into the energy, that's when sometimes we go in different directions because what you're thinking, you've come here to me for another opinion. Sometimes I'm right on board with you. Sometimes I'm like, oh, baby, you have wandered off the path. But that's all part of the empathic stuff. And I talk about this from firsthand experience. I have almost a 10-year period of my life, there's a hole in it. I was so out of touch, so empathically inclined that all I could do was go to work, come home, have dinner, get up the next morning, have breakfast, go to work, come home. I didn't have very many personal friends. I had no romantic interests at all. And that's because I couldn't fathom that. Everything, if I was in a room with even more than a couple of people, it was more than I could take. Lori, I think about the party we went to at Aries when it rained and we all came inside, and there must have been 30 people in that house. There is a time in my life where there would have been a cutout of me, like a Warner Brothers cartoon, as I just out the door. But I sat there, I thought, this is cool. All these people are in here. We can't be outside because it's raining. But that took work. And for me, what turned it around, I got up one morning and I thought, well, I came here into this life, into a body, so that I could connect with people. And basically, I've had 10 years of not connecting with anybody, not friends, nothing romantic. Work was all just work because it gave me boundaries where I could just go in and do my job and go home. And it was on that day that I decided I needed to do something different. It was just those words that shifted the energy for me. And I think that's true for most people. When you introduce an idea that things could be different, then there's a crazy part of our left brain that wants to figure it all out and map it out and put it on a PDF and all. But what if I just get up and say, today might be a different day. Today I might meet someone, or I might allow someone to touch me. And I mean, not physically, but to emotionally touch me and not take it in and have it, right? It changed my life. But it's an important practice. That's a whole thing about self-care, right? I'll hear folks talk, and please do not hear anything dismissive in this, but they'll say, I try to find time, to be by myself, and I try to get a massage from time to time. I love all that. Get a massage myself on a regular basis. But the real self-care stuff is dumping people out of my life that aren't supporting me and loving me. As I get older, it's crystal clear to me that life is not very long. Actually, it's quite short. And I don't have time anymore. I'm not mad at these people. I don't need to tell them off or send them a letter or whatever. I just don't want to have people around me that don't support me and love me. There are only so many hours in a day, and I'm having to sleep more of those hours as I get older. So I don't have time to have people, right? And that's been helpful too, to, make peace with people that I needed to make peace with, and surround myself with people who love me and support me and support what I'm doing. And if not, then they're on a beautiful path. They're just not on my beautiful
Mm.
And that can be so difficult to do, to be willing to do that and to trust that then you're still going to have people around you who love you and support you.
Lori, it's an interesting, it is difficult. What we're afraid of, what we want, I want to be affirmed. I want someone to say, you did the right thing. You're a good person. And I've had people in my life who are like, you didn't do the right thing. And continually tell me I'm not doing the right thing. I don't need that. I already have my own crazy, as we all do, that crazy inner saboteur that just continues to chatter on about stuff. I don't need that in a physical form outside me. And what's interesting is when I stopped giving that a lot of attention, those people kind of went away. It's almost like
Yes.
they want to be that voice, right?
Mhm.
So it is fearless. You have to be fearless and walk away from that.
Mhm.
It's a deserving thing, back to self-love, right? I think there are people in the world who like me and love me. I want to spend time with them. And this person over here, who I don't think really likes me, I don't need to spend time with them. But we're afraid. I'm afraid, right? What if I step out into the void like I'm out in deep space and I don't see anything for light years in any one direction? It just doesn't happen. But we're afraid of that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think when you finally make that decision to do that, like you said, it seems like those other people who aren't supportive, who aren't kind of in energetic alignment with you, so to speak, naturally fall away.
They
At least that's
do.
happened for me. It's like suddenly they're just not around anymore.
It
Yeah.
like they're getting something out of that,
Hmm.
telling me I'm not a good person, whatever. And when I wasn't paying any attention to it, I literally believe this is true, but I don't know for sure. I think they found someone else.
Exactly.
They're off telling someone else, you're not doing that right. You're not
Right.
a good person. You're not. I'm like,
Yep.
go,
If we
go.
change, the people we've been interacting with either are changing with us and vibrating in the same way, or you're right, they wander off to somebody else.
I think that when we make changes in our life, we leave a wake like a boat.
Hmm.
And the people who want to be with me are in that wake. They're trying to follow me in there.
Hmm.
And the people who aren't just are left standing in the water back
Hmm.
behind me. And I'm okay with that because
Yeah.
it I spent, if I could travel through time, I would tell myself back to 20s, you're spending too much time trying to get people who don't like you to like you.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. But I would also tell him life is way too short. The trade-off is that now you are not spending time with the people who do love you and who do like you.
Mhm.
Let these people go. Let them
Mhm.
find, this is a big forgiveness stuff, right?
Mhm.
Let them find their path. Let them find their people.
Yeah.
I don't know what their trauma is or their life path or whatever, but their life path right now is just causing me angst. And I don't, that's the empath thing. I want to fix it because every empath wants to, I want to fix the world. There are starving animals in Africa. Yes, there are. There are also starving people in America, right? There's starving people in your town. If this was really a big deal, then you would find some way to settle that, not just live in the angst of it. I don't know if you know who Mark Manson is, um, author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving
Mm.
an F.
Mm.
Love this book. In the foreword of the book, he talks about the book is not about, so the title is The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. In the foreword of the first chapter, he talks about how this book is not about not giving an F. It's about choosing what you give an F about.
Hmm.
And when you do that, when you make that as a conscious decision, then a lot of this stuff that you can't do anything about, including the people that you can't save or change, begin to float away because then I'm focused on the things that are important in my life. So my takeaway from the book, and I highly recommend it, takeaway from the book was I have three rings of interest. The first level is my family. The second level is my business. The third level are my friends. And then there's not really anything until you get down like the 23rd or 24th level on stuff that affects me. Like that, all of that takes up all of these top levels. And when I stay focused on that, when my life gets tumbled around like everyone's does, then I get focused, right? Is this affecting my home life? Is this affecting my business? Is it affecting my family? And if it is, how do I fix those? And if it's not, then I can lick my wounds and let some of that go. And so he talks a lot, he does a lot of YouTube stuff. Um, People who are empathic and out of control care about everything because they don't have any one thing to care about. And so another self-care thing for me is find the thing that's important. And it doesn't make a difference what it is. What it does is it orders your energy. It puts your energy into some kind of levels so that you know how to act on it. So that every stimulus is not 100%, because every stimulus is not 100%. It's exhausting to live like that.
Do you think that this is a universal truth that everybody goes through this change where people drop away from you? Or is it people that are more empathic? Or is it people that are going through growth spurts? Because I hear a lot about it and I experience it in my own life. Is everybody going through this? Or is it right
A
now
reason?
everybody's?
Grandma's talking to me. It's a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Mhm.
And at my age, the lifetime people, that's a pretty small number. So there are people that were around for a reason, people that were around for a season, and people around for a lifetime. So I think saying that, well, I'm answering you, I think it's a universal thing. I think I think we come into this life to live this life. And that sounds trite. I don't mean it to be, but to live this life, to connect with the people I want to connect with, to express my soul and my being in the way that I want to, not the way my parents want me to, or a spouse wants me to, or right. And we're all, you know, we're all subject to this. Someone says, well, a guy your age. Like I feel my fist tightening up. I'm like, what do you mean a guy my age? There are expectations about me as a guy my age that weren't there when I was, 30, and certainly weren't there when I was 20. And so to fully express ourselves, our soul at a soul level, have this come through this machine that we're wearing is exciting. It's also very lonely because there are going to be people who don't want any part of this. And that's the other half of the empath stuff, right? I want you to like me. I want you to be on my path with me. I want to take everyone with me. Can I take everyone with me? I cannot take everyone with me. Sometimes I'm not on my own path.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm wandering off in the yard. I'm like, dude, come back. Right.
I think I can relate to all of that. And I have a feeling a lot of the watchers, the viewers can as well. But I noticed this in my own life, and it's actually kind of comforting to know this is something that people go through either at this point in their development or at this point in history. So thank you for that.
And so this is my take on this, but God and I were talking about this, so I'm going to kind of talk with authority here.
I noticed you have a red phone right there on your desk. So
I do. You're not under any obligation. So this life given to you as a gift, you can work out these things. And we meet people all the time that are on their path and they're doing their inside work, and they're wonderful. I put myself in that category sometimes, and sometimes I don't. Doesn't make any difference. But then we meet people who are just, I think, spiritually asleep. You and I, the three of us, have not chosen a higher road. There are no rewards for doing this work. You commit to this work, live in your mom's basement until she dies, and then you get the house, and you don't ever do anything with your life. You don't get to the pearly gates or whatever the version of that is, and they're like, dude, you didn't do nothing with your life. When the Queen of England dies, there's no trumpets blaring in heaven. She just finished her life and moved on to whatever the next thing is. And that's another piece that's really helped me on the path, because I think in our community, we get caught up in this, I came here to do this one thing. And this has come up in readings recently. Woman said to me, I just need to know my purpose. And I heard this voice in the room say, like, you've got one purpose. And it was in this reading, it was really important for me. Like, I'm getting a reading while I'm giving this reading for this lady, right? What would be the one purpose? She's very accomplished and had this great life, and she's probably got 25 years left, and she's looking for, there is no, you, I'm a son and a brother, and I just all these things. I'm a friend and a best friend, and I'm, where am I just one purposing? So when I let a lot of that go, that I could be who I want to be. I want to be the man that I want to be. I want to be the employer that I want to be. I want to be the teacher that I want to be, the reader that I want to be. That a lot of my energy then again kind of came back in and got focused in my body where it should be. So that I'm not trying to be that reader. And I'll use that as an example. For those people that are on the path that have teachers and they want to be, whatever it is, tarot reader, astrologer, numerology, medium, whatever. I had reached a kind of a plateau probably around 40, and not a bad plateau. I mean, it just was what it is. And I got up one morning and I thought, I have to find how I read. I've just had great teachers. I'm just can't tell you how grateful I am for the people that have been in my life and I've studied with. But at some point, I have to find how Charles reads, not how Barb reads. I'm no longer paying homage to her by doing her work. That was another big step. But it's scary. It's easier to do the way Lori says, this is how you do readings with every best intention, right? This is how you do it. But someone has to find their own path. They have to find what works for them. And that's a scary, lonely path because my experience, as soon as I wander off the path, some person in my life pops up. It's like whack-a-mole. They pop up and they're like, you're off your path. Yeah, yes, I know. Thank you. Right? Almost as a way to scare me. Like, get back on the path. I don't want to get back. I'm trying to find my path. I'm trying to find how I read. The truth is, I'm trying to find my voice. And for those who don't know me, I served for 30 years as a minister. And in being a minister, there's this idea of finding your ministry, finding your voice. So I don't teach on 100 different things. I teach on a handful of things. These things collectively would be my ministry. So as you are on the spiritual path, or if you're trying to be a reader or trying to grow in that way, you're going to find the things that are important to you, that are your message, that you're going to share with people. That becomes your ministry or your voice. But we talked about the empathic stuff. We want people to love us and shine their light on us. But sometimes I don't get the light shined on me for trying to be myself. I'm trying to find my voice. I'm trying to find my voice as a teacher, my voice as a reader, my voice as a counselor. It's a stinker.
Oh.
These times are tough, and I think lots of people can relate to what you just said. And speaking for my own self, I certainly feel all that. The empathic side where you want people to like you, but you also have to protect yourself. And that's a fine line to walk. So your points are very well made and well taken by me. So thank you.
I appreciate that. For those that are watching, I think it's important to know that you're not the only one on this path. So I know, Laura, you've worked as a counselor. I think part of, if I were a counselor, a therapist, I think one of the things that I would work on with people, so many people feel alone. And somehow having them realize, however they have that realization, that first of all, what's going on in their life is not a new storyline. There are no new storylines. And that they're not alone. And that in itself for me was healing, to know that I have people around me, whether they're speaking about it or not, that are having the same experiences, the same emotional experiences that I'm having. And when I can accept that as the truth, it makes me more gracious about other people's experiences. Because, Tom, you might be having an experience that I had 10 years ago, and it would be easy to be dismissive and be like, dude, you got to get past that. And we do that sometimes. Lori, you just need to get over that. Stop being mean to Tom.
Right. If we get to
Right.
anything, that's it right there, Lori.
But it's so much fun.
Yeah.
See?
Says you.
uh, but getting to that point where you have this awareness about other people, it'll change your world. Right. And there's so many things in our collective, like grandma wisdom, that's really important. Stuff as a kid, I'm just like, to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, I just don't know the people around me, even the ones who are stinkers. I don't know what brought them to this place. And I'm grateful that I don't know, to be honest. I'm not curious in that way. I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened to that. I'm just aware that they're in this place where they seem unhappy. They seem unhappy with other people. They seem unhappy with me.
A moment ago, when you were talking about the loneliness of it all, the words that I heard in my head were find your tribe. So everybody's got to find their tribe. And to me, that fits right in with sometimes the people that aren't in your tribe, you're not going to be focused on those. That kind of explains how some people are going to drop off and other people are going to show up. So,
And the tribe is dynamic, right? I think there, in my mind, when I was younger, there was this set number of people, not necessarily a number of people, but a set group of people that we would just all get old together, and we just all grow old together and support each other. And at my age, I have lost two friends my age that I thought we would be friends forever. Two women had heart attacks. I don't even know any guys that have had heart attacks. The two women that I lost that I'm very close to had heart attacks. So the tribe begins to then reformulate itself, they both brought things to the party, some of which will never be replaced, and some will. But it's being with the process, being in the flow.
I was just going to say that for me, it's learning how to be in that flow and holding lightly and not having such attachments to things always staying the same or
Because they
people
don't.
staying the same. They don't.
That's where the crazy is, right? That's
Yeah.
where the crazy. So you get locked onto that. That has to be some kind of fixation with people, right? I just want everything to be the same. Well, the sun went down and tomorrow's a new day, so already it's not the same. And we get caught on this. I want people to be the same.
We hate
I want
change. We
we
hate the
hate
unknown,
change.
right?
Yep.
And what I'm seeing as I age is I have to let that go. And the more I do, the more I can stay in that flow. But I hate change. But I feel like everything is constantly changing now. And I'm trying to stay with it and stay in the flow.
Okay, I'll tell you this, and hopefully you'll find some humor in this, or you could use it if you want. So when life gets tumbly with me, and I'm same thing, I'm like, well, why can't I just have yesterday again, right? I actually kind of I do this for the studio audience, because there's a rapport between me and the studio audience all the time. I'm just like, it's an adventure, right? And I laugh, it makes me laugh, right? The house is burning down. It's an adventure, right? People in my life die that I love and have spent an entire lifetime with. Adventure. It helps me to release some of that energy, because it highlights in my own head my own stuff that I recognize in other people. I wish that we could just reach a certain place and just be there. I would choose late 20s when I was ridiculously good looking, but that boat has sailed.
well, I'm in my late
And
20s
sunk.
now, and I'm not feeling exactly all that. But to your other point about, and I'm sorry for your friends that passed on, but it isn't even just friends that passed on, it's friends that have just changed to the point where you no longer speak the same languages.
Yes.
And that's a big deal. And I think that's a big part of what's happening in the world right now. Is
We don't teach people how to grieve. So the deal is,
Yeah.
this is the exact same thing. When you have a friend that you just can't talk to anymore, I mean, literally they're speaking Mandarin Chinese. There's just no communication going on at all. We don't teach people how to grieve. This is tied into, we don't want anything to change. So even in the Western world, someone dies, the coroner comes and takes the body. And in many cases, we never see the body again. We just pretend that they're off living in another part of town or moved to another place, right? We don't ever see the dead body. Nobody gets to see the ashes if they're cremated. And we don't mourn that. And when people in our lives leave and friends leave, it happens. It is just like death. It is something that needs to be grieved.
I have always felt that way. When someone moves away and as they're getting ready to move, you think to yourself, I am never going to see that person again. And there's grief in there. There's some mourning that has to occur.
Yep.
Yeah.
Charles, before we wind it up a little bit here, I'd like to give you a chance to talk about some of the things you offer, your readings and your classes. And so let's talk about that for a moment, if you wouldn't mind giving yourself a plug on some of what you do.
Thanks. My name is Charles Cox, and if you just Google Charles Cox Psychic, you can find me. The website is denver-psychic.com. And I teach classes, Discover Your Spiritual Gifts in Centennial, Isis in Englewood, Soul Inspiration in North Glen. The classes are really meant to be taken in any order, so it's not a structured type curriculum. I think that learning how to become aware of psychic energies is just like any skill. So the more you practice at it, the more aware you'll become. And the classes are fun and relatively inexpensive. And the fun part's important to me. Adult learners learn well in that kind of an environment. So I have you doing the exercises and it's fun, right? This is not an extension course from DU where you got to stress about it. I have an office in Lakewood, and I do psychic readings and consultations in my office in Lakewood. I also read at Isis in Englewood. And that's about it. I'm really very blessed. This is something I love to do. I believe that if you meet me and I'm not your cup of tea, I want you to know that you've at least met someone that gets to do what they love for a living, and you should go mull on that for a while. Been very grateful to have the opportunity to do this, and done it long enough that, even when my crazy voice gets crazy, I think, geez, you got people that call you up and want a reading, you must have done something that touched them or related to them because they want a reading, or a friend who recommended someone calling me up. So I'm really grateful for all the opportunities. It is doing this work. It's just doing it. And there's not a week that goes by that someone doesn't leave my office and I just think, what the hell just happened? I mean, in a good way. I get to do this. I feel like I'm some vessel. I don't ever use any word like channeling because I don't even know really what that means. But there's stuff that comes through in readings where I'm just like, WTH. It's meaningful to the client. They're crying. I'm happy. They're happy. They hug me, tell their friends. Really, what more could I ask for? But it should be effortless. So making this fun and an adventure, right? Let it be an adventure. Let the spiritual path be an adventure. Let the spiritual growth be an adventure. You're going to get tumbled about. You get up, you wipe the dust off your knees, and you just keep going, because that's all there is that's left, is just to have this adventure. And if you want to not pay attention to any of it, you don't get downgraded. This is just the path that I've chosen.
I'll give a quick testimonial. I've enjoyed your classes as well as your individual readings. And I know I took several of your classes, and many of them were on Friday nights. It was a great way to spend a Friday night when I was getting started. Those were some great times. So I'll tell the world Charles is a very knowledgeable and good instructor. and I've appreciated it all along.
And
Thank
I
you.
would agree with that, as well as an incredible reader. So had
Thank
several
you.
readings with you.
I'll
And if
tell you a funny, go ahead.
I was going to say, if this falls through, you got a whole comedy career in front of you, which leads right
Sure.
into what I think you're about to do. Go right ahead.
No, I was just gonna tell you, I was while the Friday night stuff was going on, so I taught a class every Friday night for 7 straight years, unless Christmas and New Year's was on a Friday. So every Friday, I think we canceled like 3 classes in 7 years. I knew while that was going on that this was probably the best time of my life. I enjoyed every minute of it, and so did the people, and I hope that showed. I just love doing this,
Mhm.
and it was a lot of fun. I have folks now that are like, we need to do those classes. Yeah, I was in my 40s when I started teaching. I'm in my 60s now. I don't think I've got every Friday in me. We didn't take vacations. We couldn't leave on vacation until Saturday morning because I had class on Friday night. Don't think this didn't cause some issues in the household. We could fly out cheaper Friday night. I know, but I'd have to lose a class.
Well, for the happy hour crowd, of which I was part at that time, it was a decision. Do I go to happy hour or go to class? Well, after a while, it was a pretty easy decision. I'm going to class. So
Good.
I
Good,
really
good.
enjoyed it. Thank you for that. I'd like to thank Charles for visiting us today, and the discussion and the knowledge and the experience are invaluable to us. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me both.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a question for Charles, you can post that in the comments and we'll make sure he gets it and gets a chance to answer if you like, or you can do the same with a question for Lori or me. You can also suggest future topics. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And you can always reach us at ourspiritualsojourn@gmail.com. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for your attendance and your attention. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.